Last night, huge night in the college football world. The actual rankings in the actual bracket that is coming from the actual group of people that are going to be deciding who the college football playoff inevitably is at the end of the year whenever they start at 12 and count down to 1, rolled out their first official rankings of the year. We saw them put their hats on the hat tree, and now we see what they came up with in that room. Let's go to Hammer, Dahn, AP Tone. Tone, what did the college football playoff committee tell us with their first projected 12-team bracket?
Yeah, I don't think there was a ton of surprises here. There was 2 things that I took away from looking at this, and the first one being Oregon at 9. When I projected it, I thought they would be higher, but the committee disagreed with me. They are the lowest ranked one-loss team from the Big Ten or SEC. They are behind Bama, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Texas Tech, who's in the Big 12 as far as one-loss teams go. So they are, like, Oregon needs to be careful. Oregon still has Iowa this weekend at Kinnick, which is huge, USC, and Washington. Like, all those teams are ranked. All those teams are good. Like, if Oregon messes around and loses any of those games, they're definitely going to drop them behind Texas or Oklahoma, teams like that. So, like, Oregon, I wouldn't be happy if I were them when this came out, because one more loss and they could definitely be out of the playoff as a 2-loss team, which would suck for them. And then the other thing I was looking at, Notre Dame's at 10 right now as a 2-loss team. But go behind them, the 2 teams right behind them, Texas and Oklahoma. Texas has Georgia and A&M left. Like, if they beat Georgia and A&M, guess what? Texas is going to be ahead of Notre Dame. So Notre Dame drops to 11. Oklahoma has Bama and Mizzou left, and that Bama is at Bama. Like, if Oklahoma were to somehow beat Bama on the road, I think they jump Notre Dame too. So while Notre Dame's in there right now, I don't know if they're safe. Obviously, if they lose, they're out. But Oregon as well, as a one-loss Oregon, if you drop to 2 losses, I think you might go behind Texas and Oklahoma in that situation too. So those 2 teams is what I kind of took away from last night's rankings.
Okay, let's check out what Tone's predicted CFP committee bracket looked like versus what the CFP committee bracket was. What did you get wrong? You got Oregon ranked differently, but basically have all the same teams. You basically are seeing the field how the CFP committee's seeing the field. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, as you said earlier, I saw all those old whites walk in there and put their helmets up on that hat rack, and they went in there to do their business. And yeah, I had Oregon higher. I thought they would be higher. Maybe 5 was a little too high, but I didn't think they would be behind, Texas Tech. Like, I thought for sure they'd be ahead of Texas Tech, just because normally there's no respect for the Big 12. Not saying there shouldn't be. I'm just saying in the committee's eyes. But yeah, all the teams were correct, and just kind of Oregon was really the only one that was out of place.
Okay, what out of baby Tone? That's why you're best in the game.
Thank you.
I see you're growing back your beard. I thought maybe you were just sticking with mustache for a while, or is maybe this the look?
No, just the mustache was a horrendous look. That was a miscalculation of epic proportions on my part. But no, I don't mind the mustache with it's starting to come in. This is a week's worth of growth. Maybe like another week with the mustache. We're starting to find it a bit here.
Yeah, holiday season, Tom. Holiday season. Congrats to you.
Thank you.
Steelers get a huge win over the Colts. Tone batting 1,000 in college football, and he's starting to find it with his face. The thought of starting with 12, counting down to 1. And last night, we got the first bracket from the actual committee that's going to be doing the selecting of the college football playoff. What's your big takeaway from last night, Steve, and what should you be thinking about? Basically, Tone's take was they don't respect Oregon much. It seems like Oregon doesn't have a lot of respect. They're 1 loss away from potentially being out of this entire thing. Is that something you agree with, and what else did you see?
I see where they're coming from with Oregon, but I get it, with the best win being against Northwestern. Now, the good thing about Oregon, they have plenty of opportunities moving forward. I thought the top 3, I wanted to see what that was going to look like, and I had a feeling Ohio State was going to be with what their game control and what their dominance has looked like. Plenty of people have talked about the competition that they've played, but I look at them being ahead of Indiana simply due to one reason. Look who Indiana scheduled in the out-of-conference, and look what Ohio State did in scheduling Texas in that opener. So I have no problem with Ohio State being number 1. A&M might have the best win in the country at Notre Dame, but there's other games with the defense. I thought the board chair made good, valid points with how dominant the defenses of Indiana and Ohio State have been compared to one, little thing about A&M, yeah, the defense has given up more points. The biggest takeaway to me is that this committee seems to be rewarding close losses. And when you look at Notre Dame with 2 close losses at that, last play of the game, they're ahead of say, Texas, Iowa, plenty to play for, moving ahead. But it seems like they got a lot of credit for, keeping it close against Indiana in a home game. So that was one thing I thought was pretty evident that close losses look to be a factor for this committee.
AP Tone, your thoughts on the close loss theory from Stanford Steve?
Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely correct. I mean, Notre Dame lost on, a fumbled snap at home to A&M in overtime, and then a close loss down in Miami in week 1. And then if you want to talk about Texas Tech, who is right ahead of them, their only loss is on a last-second play to Arizona State. So when Steve's talking about the close losses, for sure, and Georgia's close loss would be better than Oregon's, obviously, because IU kind of handled them a good bit, and their one loss being to Bama, who's the number 4 seed. So yeah, as far as Steve's talking about those close losses, that is definitely a thing, and that's definitely going to drive people crazy.
Yes, definitely going to drive people crazy, but this is also going to make some football people pumped about, hey, who do you play? What are your losses? Where are your losses? What do your losses look like? When were your losses? Like, that is something that I think a lot of people hope that they add into the decision-making process. What are they going strictly off? Each kind of committee has their own thing, right? Stanford Steve, isn't that kind of part of the problem? Like, this committee might view things vastly different than last year's committee, and then people will say, well, last year they didn't. And it's like, well, this is a completely different situation, right? Isn't that kind of like the evolving process of the CFP committee?
Yeah, that's I think some things are subjective and object. People want to throw all those big words around. I try and just watch the games and figure out who's the best. But the way my record is going this year, I can't be on that any say. So I'm going to listen to the people that are in the room in the committee. The one thing I will say is that the idea of the losses with Miami. I was interested in the Miami Notre Dame comparison, and Miami being 8 spots lower than Notre Dame tells you, I think it's more recency. Miami is as frustrating in their losses as anybody. You got one loss where the quarterback throws 4 picks. Another loss, I believe they had 13 penalties in an overtime game where they had to lead and had a costly penalty for SMU to get a field goal. So Miami is the one, I think, the biggest loser to me right now, because when you look at them moving forward, there's not a lot of opportunities, along with Vanderbilt. They don't have a lot of opportunities to get wins and move up as does Oregon, or even say a Texas Tech or a BYU. Like, they have ranked teams on their schedule. So Miami being down that far, it was pretty eye-opening to me.
Yeah, bad for the ACC as well, and obviously lose games, that's what's going to happen, especially up there. And you start asking yourself, is there going to be 2 bids out of the ACC, or are they only going to get 1? Go ahead, Con, man.
Yeah, Steve, looking at the games remaining, especially with those teams that are on that bracket, is Georgia Tech versus Georgia going to be the biggest game, you think, in that rivalry's history? But as far as just foreseeing what the playoff's going to be, Georgia Tech goes down, someone else goes in, Georgia goes down, they're out. All of a sudden, maybe a different SEC team, Texas, by chance they slide in. Well, what do you think about that situation kind of brewing now?
Yeah, I think it's enormous, Connor. When you look at Georgia Tech and what they are, their strength of schedule, I believe, is in the hundreds. And that's a team that every year is going to play Georgia, right? So you got an out-of-conference game there. They go and schedule Colorado, who you think is going to be all right, but they're getting worse and worse every week. You beat Clemson, and Clemson might not make a bowl game. And it's just tough. And then you have that game that catches up to you, where you can't get your defense on track against NC State, and you get that first loss. But they are in control. The comparative thing, and that's why I think the Miami Notre Dame thing is unfortunate also, is as big as these conferences are, we get less and less head-to-head, and I think head-to-head should matter a ton. So the Georgia Tech game is going to be enormous as far as comparative. It's an out-of-conference game. It's an SEC versus ACC. And, to Georgia Tech's point, it's not going to get in their way of making the ACC title game. But, yeah, that's I thought they were ranked properly with what their resume actually is when you take a step back and look at it. But they got a couple chances for some monster wins. But yeah, that game is enormous, to your point.
You talk about the SEC and the ACC showing out there at that particular point for maybe how many bids should they have. And then the Big 12 obviously has a lot of teams vying for the Big 12 championship, still very much in it, which is a beautiful thing. I mean, BYU, Utah might be having a Holy War reunion at the Big 12 championship game. But then you think about that other conference, the one up north. Go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, Steve, when you look at the back half of the rankings with Iowa, Michigan, and USC all clustered right there, do you think that suggests that more than likely the Big Ten is only going to be a 3-bid league? Because obviously you could make the case that either SC or Iowa would swap with Oregon potentially because they both still have to play them. And then obviously they're, kind of saving grace to get a 4th team in would be Michigan potentially beating Ohio State. But with the way this is set up right now, do you think that means that the Big Ten is probably only getting 3 teams in?
Yeah, that's the way it looks right now. What I will say to those teams individually, control your own destiny, whatever, what have you, it's there. The issue I have is if Michigan wins and beats Ohio State, they're going to be in the Big Ten title game because their other loss is out of conference. So you would have potentially Indiana, Michigan in Indianapolis, and Ohio State sitting with one loss and in the most recent number 1 team in the country, which would turn, throw a whole flux. Iowa, it's there, man. I would be pumped if I was an Iowa fan. Knowing that you're 20. Yeah, I mean, what a weekend for you. You got the Packers Monday night. We got Iowa, CBS, 3:30. Good luck. I hope you don't have your kids this weekend.
Jeez.
You need some time.
Send the kids out there. Send the kids out there. It's a big one. Iowa can win maybe the biggest game that they've had in a long time during the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, it really is all in front of them. It was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek fun. Now,
lingering.
Yeah, lingering, but I as of right now, I really do feel like they're going to beat Oregon this weekend. I don't think there's been this much juice around an Iowa team in quite some time in the building as well. But then the true test, I mean, obviously that's a test, but they have to go to USC. So it's like if they could get through both those teams, though, look out. Iowa might be sneaking in there as an 11 or a 12 seed.
Go ahead, Tone.
Steve, I was just looking at that, and I brought it up earlier, but I wanted to get your opinion. Notre Dame's sitting at 10, and then right behind them, Texas and Oklahoma, both with 2 losses as well. Texas still has Georgia and A&M. Oklahoma's still got Bama. If it's a big if, but if those teams went out, is there a chance they jump Notre Dame and Notre Dame's sitting on the outside with their 2 close losses?
They should, but I don't see it happening.
Okay.
The most definite thing I feel about right now is that Notre Dame's going to get a home game in the playoff. When you look at what they've done, and I just wish they were down a little bit so they had to earn that 10-game win streak to get in. And you prop them up again, like I said, to the 2 close losses, and then everybody throws away what they looked like last week against Boston College.
It's a good football
Boston
team.
College is atrocious. Stanford beat Boston College. They are not a good football team.
Stanford's playing good ball.
Bill O'Brien said they're showing up and fighting. Okay, you want to be negative, get the hell on out of here.
Sun's up.
Sun's up, we're playing football.
I love Bill O'Brien, but they're not a good outfit. As I said.
Well, that's what the guy asking the question
Not
said.
a good outfit.
Yeah, the guy asking the question, Bill O'Brien said, this sucks, basically. And Bill O'Brien said, I don't want to hear it. Okay, we need to be. This is a real press conference. It happened, yesterday, maybe 2 days ago?
Yeah, and even worse, if you go back to how Bill O'Brien got there, guy could have been the OC of Ohio State last year, if I do remember correctly, or was that 2 years ago? But either way, I think it makes sense now why Jeff Hafley left BC, because they got no resources up there.
Well, Bill O'Brien said his son's up and we're playing football.
That's
so
right. Amen.
He's about sick of all the negativity.
Hockey season now for the BC Eagles.
Yeah,
Just
they're going to
throwing
be in that
out there.
Frozen Four. We know they're going to be dangling around with their sticky mitts. We understand that that's going to happen. But yes, you're talking about Notre Dame's big-time wins. Yeah, they're going to have to put on a show. I think Tone said at the beginning of the year, he said, if Notre Dame wins every game by 30 like they did last year, and they just kind of do that for the rest of the year, they're definitely going to get in the college football playoff. I assume they were already out because they had so many wins. But Texas A&M being who they are, obviously is a big deal for them. I think that's a big deal. And then Reese Davis, who is a very influential person in college football. He speaks to the committee. He's one of the only people that get to do that. He hosts College Game Day. He said Notre Dame eye test top 5 team in America, and it's maybe just the 2 losses are completely tough luck almost, because everybody talks about the Notre Dame schedule. Like, Notre Dame's able to schedule whoever they want. They're independent. They're going to be on national TV. They got enough money. They're able to kind of do what they want. They don't have a conference championship. They have it easy when it comes to that. It's like they scheduled some tough ones early. They lost them both. And then the national narrative for the first time was like, Notre Dame is done. So it's like a very different Notre Dame season as opposed to like one where they're kind of who they played. Now it's like, well, they've actually played top three team, lost to them close, very close, and they've dominated everybody else. They're going to get in, we all assume.
Yeah.
It's Notre Dame.
It's Notre Dame.
They should just say at the start of the year, no matter what, Notre Dame, you lose 2 or less, you're auto bid.
That should be a part of the rules, because remember the SEC and the Big Ten allegedly are like, hey, if you make the championship game, you should be automatically in. So that's what I think was being talked about, because, the big angle started to become, well, these guys aren't going to want to play in championship games because it's another loss. Like, what is championship game? Mm-hmm. Championship game means nothing because these teams don't care because they just don't want to get there because they don't want to lose. And it's like, well, if you made an automatic bid for both finalists of the championships, then it's a whole different conversation. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. But whenever we get there, maybe it is like finalists for the championship games get in, and Notre Dame, if they have less than 2 losses, they also get a spot. All the other spots up for grabs. There's a chance that they actually do that, Ty.
Yeah, I mean, but it's Notre Dame, okay? So we can say all this kind of stuff. It's one of the most powerful and biggest and most beloved institutions in the United States. So if they're even on the cusp of potentially getting in, they're going to say, hey, would you rather see Notre Dame or Memphis in the playoff?
Well, Memphis is obviously Group of 5.
No, yeah, I get it.
They got their own slot. There's no reason for you to attack.
I'm just saying. If Notre Dame is even close to getting in.
You think that committee's going to say?
Got a lot of old white people on that committee. How many of those guys are Catholics?
You think they're?
I don't know.
En nombre del Padre.
Yeah. Et File. Espiritu Santo.
Espiritu Santo.
Amen.
Amen. Yeah, there is.
Let's get Notre Dame in this thing.